You don't want the ball to start at your target. You want it to start somewhere else and head toward the target. For a draw, that means it has to start to the right. For a fade, it has to start to the left. We don't want our fade to start at the target because now it's going to go away from the target. Then theoretically, I need to aim the club face to the left when I'm fixing to hit a fade because I need it to start left. The question would be, wait a minute, do I just turn the face in? Because now I'm going to hook it. No, you set the club face to the left, and then you set your body more left than the club face. So your swing is going left of where the face is looking. Now the ball is going to cut. The face and the path have to be different from one another to curve the ball. So if I want it to curve to the right, I need to swing to the left of where the face is looking. That cuts across it and puts a fade on it. So the aiming the club face to the left of the target ensures that the ball is going to start to the left.
Golf Smarter number 779. If you could get 10 more yards with your driver, then what's the impact on the rest of your clubs? With Roger Gunn.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Greene.
Welcome back to the Golf Smarter podcast, Roger.
Thank you very much, sir. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you. I hope it's going to be a wonderful 2021 for you and your family.
Thank you, sir.
But I got to believe, as I continue to talk to teachers, that 2020 wasn't that bad.
Are you kidding?
As far as your business.
It was crazy. So, yeah, I mean, our the fellow that runs our range here, you know, when we were first closed for a month, he said, if we're closed for 2 more months, we're closed forever. Wow. And and it's a nice facility.
Now,
so,
where is it specifically?
It's at the Golf Development Complex in kind of the shadow of the Reagan Library in Moore Park, California. So
okay, Moore Park is where's Moore Park in relation to Los Angeles? Southern California.
It's actually mostly west. It's a little bit north and west. So you don't think really of much of west of Los Angeles, but the coast actually makes a little jig down here. And so, you know, we're not.
So it's going up towards Santa Barbara area.
Correct. But it goes, you know, west for a while. It's kind of funny. But anyway, so that's where we are by Simi Valley. And I think it's just the case that, you know, what are folks going to do? They can't do anything else. That's a little bit of a broad statement, but in terms of we're not going bowling, we're not going to go, you know, hang out at a local bar. We're not going to go to the movies. What are we going to do?
We can't have people come over and play ping pong.
So golf has great social distancing, very easy to stay away, very easy to have a lot of fun and spend time with your family and friends. And so there it is. You know, we just have massive new golfers out. You can't get a tee time anywhere on the golf courses. So, you know, it's, I mean, obviously I would never wish this on anyone in terms of what's happened, but, you know, for the golf industry, it's been amazing.
Amazing. Yeah. That was a Data Tech just came out the other day saying that 13.9% increase in rounds, 10% increase in equipment sales year to year.
Crazy. I mean, that's, you know,
and how do they maintain it?
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly golf was going the wrong way prior to that. And because the millennials and the Gen X and all these people were not playing golf, you know, and the boomers are getting up there in years. So that was something that was really looming large. I don't know what the long-term ramifications are going to be, but you know, there's been a lot of people who are now exposed to golf and are coming out and having a good time. So might be a real shot in the arm when they most needed it.
How's this for a remedy? Get rid of make daylight savings time all year long. So there's more, we can have more months where we can play later in the day than
it's a thing, you know, I mean, you run up against that clock and, you know, you just don't have the time to play and get out there. So yeah, that's 6 more holes.
Yeah, exactly. So what do people, you know, you've this past year, you've probably had a lot of new students, you have a lot of returning students, people who are just wanting to work on it. What do they want to talk about?
Boy, that's a great question. I mean, it really spans the spectrum because,
Yeah.
one guy will show up with his driver and, this driver, this club is killing me. And the next person is hitting it just beautiful with his driver and can't hit anything else. We have, and then sometimes they don't even realize what's, hurting their game, where a guy might say, my driver's terrible, everything else is fine. And then he starts looking at his stats and sees that his driver's actually, not hurting him at all, and that he's terrible inside of 100 yards. So, like I say, it really spans the spectrum. I had a very good player with that exact thing. He says, I don't like the way I drive it, but then he saw his stats and he said, I'm actually picking up shots every round with my strokes gained off the tee. But he realized that his wedge play was not so good.
You mean people are actually coming to you saying, I'm great with my driver, but I can't do anything else? Really?
Sometimes. Oh, yeah, it does happen.
And these are people, of course, who've never been fitted for clubs. They just bought, I saw this guy hitting this. And
yeah, they're getting better and better at being fitted, because their friends maybe show up with a fitted driver. And that's a big thing. I mean, it's you're just not going to get off the rack as fine-tuned as you can be with someone with the right diagnostic equipment and right expertise. It can mean a big deal in terms of yardage and consistency.
Absolutely. It was interesting because you talk about getting fitted. I'm looking here. I got an email recently from a listener that I printed so I can have it when I need it. And of course, I don't have it. No, but it was talking about, here it is. I found it. There you go. Eric Castor wants to know about getting fitted. That can older clubs be adjusted, or can, it's like you're getting fitted and you have a set of clubs, but can they make some adjustments to the clubs you have?
They can. Possible? Yeah, a lot of them, depending on how much you need to adjust them, but you can certainly change a lot of irons, like a forged head, you might be able to change 3 or 4 degrees on a lie angle, which is significant. And then you can start to fill in the gaps between your clubs by bending them a little stronger or a little weaker so that you have proper distances between your irons, so that you don't have a situation where you get to 105 yards and say, oh, no, not 105. It's you never want to have that. You want to have all those scoring distances inside of 150. You basically want to say, well, put me anywhere, I'm fine. So a lot of times that can be some creative bending. I always consider getting a new set like the first step. So then you go out and hit and you play with them, see how far they go, see what's happening, and then you adjust after that. Yeah. So I know that's how Mickelson does it, where he's at Callaway and has the guy there with the bending tool and the track man, and they just get it to go a certain distance. He wants his 8-iron to fly 171 and, whatever. So, and he'll bend his clubs until that's how far they're going.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he knows 171. I mean, it's like, yeah.
So that's quite fine tuned at that level, where if you ask them, how far do you hit your 7-iron? They're not going to say, between 165 and 180, like some amateurs might say. So no, they'll hit you with a specific number.
Right. So it's interesting because, I got to assume that a lot of people are, as they always have, are coming in and asking, I need more distance. I need more consistency. I need more distance. I need more consistency, right? Those are probably the 2 biggest questions you always get.
Yeah.
So if you achieve more distance with a student, what happens to the rest of their game? Now, all of a sudden, they're hitting everything different than they used to, and they have to make all these adjustments, and they don't know how long they hit each club anymore.
Yes. Well, we have a chat about that, about how to see, and keep a pulse on how far everything is going. So we'll chat about that in a second here. I was going to make the point that a lot of times people are robbing themselves from distance, and the issue causes not only distance issues, but consistency issues. So sometimes you can refine the way someone is turning or their arm structure or whatever, and it improves both. So really what it is, what I recommend to folks is that they keep a little book for each course that they play. And it can be a blank notebook. It doesn't have to have anything in it. You're going to fill it in. And you have 18 pages that you're going to use. So let's say we're on the first hole and it's a slightly uphill shot. It's 145 yards. Maybe it's dead calm and 70 degrees. And you decide to take your 7-iron. So you get a beautiful 7-iron. You get up on the green, and there's your divot on the green there, 3 yards past the pin. So you just flew at 148 on that shot. So you're going to write down 148. You're going to write down nice 7-iron. So that's the shot you were playing. And then you're going to write down the wind condition. So you would write calm. So now maybe the next time you play there, it's blowing 20 miles an hour downwind. So you hit a lot bigger drive. So now you've got 115 yards and you hit your gap wedge. And let's say it flew to 121. So now you're going to write down 121. You're going to hit full gap wedge, write down full gap wedge, and then you're going to write 20 miles an hour behind. And so that way you start to get a case study. So for how far it's going. So, nice. Let's say that we end up on, and sooner or later you'll end up with the same conditions, really exactly. So, or thereabouts. So let's say that we show up and it's 150 that I want to carry it, and it's 70 degrees again, and it's calm. And I stand there and say, I really like that 7-iron. 7-iron looks good to me. Well, you look in your book and you say, okay, well, I hit it 148 solid the other day. So if I'm going to get 150 out of this thing, I'm going to have to hit it a little bit harder, or perhaps play a little different flight or something like that to get a little more distance out of it. So that's how it starts to help you in your game. So then you can really pinpoint what club you want to hit. And it shows you how it plays on that particular hole as well. So especially if you have big uphill, downhill, how far is this flying? You really pinpoint it the next time you're choosing a club there.
Interesting. Hey, let's take a break. We'll be right back. The other day I needed my little pens for my Czech Gopro.
Oh.
And guess who I saw?
Did you go to the website?
Yes. And look who's there. It's Roger.
Yeah.
Promoting
from quite a few years ago, actually. So, yeah. But that's a really good product. I've spoken to a number of companies that actually use that because, like at Even Roll putters, and I know some other companies that have done it too, where they would take a putt that's rolling right at the hole, and all of a sudden it didn't hold its line and go in, and so they found that was actually a thing where the having the ball, knowing where that balance point was affecting how the ball was tracking.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Oh, so those things are more than just a mental lock-in.
No, it's a real thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Check Pro.
Yeah.
What a great toy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've used it for years. I can't tell you how many pens I've gone through.
Oh, yes.
I keep ordering pens. Yeah, they dried out again. You can't use other pens. They're small enough that they work. You can't bring in a Sharpie and do it.
Right.
They work.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
Yeah.
So now we're back on the consistency part and adding more distance. Is what when someone says I want more consistency, what does that mean to you versus what it means to them?
Yeah, so often it's a consistency of process where, like I had a guy this morning who's a nice player, and so a lot of times I'll have them go to different targets. So when we set a club down and we're working on the swing, a lot of times they can get in a great groove. But when I have them go to different targets, all kinds of things start to show up. So I said, well, hit me at that 150 sign over there, and I want you to get as close as you can to it, but you can't go right of it. And so he gets up there to set up. He's a left-handed golfer, and he makes a setup, and I was quite shocked at where he aimed it, to tell you the truth. He was, a solid 40 yards left of it, maybe more. And so what's going to happen now? He's going to either hit a nice shot, which he did, and then proceed.
So that's a nice tight draw for a lefty, right?
Yeah, well, but he hits a nice shot on his aim, but he aimed it 40 yards left. So, to him, he would have perceived that he did something wrong because the ball's so far off target. And it's like, well, you just hit it right where you aimed it. So, how are you going to be consistent if you have to, manipulate with your hands to get the club to square up, to get the ball to go where you want? So we had a nice chat about, how to set up and set up consistently. So that's the consistency of process is huge.
So is it his alignment was off? I mean, we're going through position, grip, alignment, and tempo, but it was just alignment. He just didn't recognize that was what was going on.
That's correct. Yep. Mm-hmm. And so, he was surprised when I said, "Yeah, you just hit it where you aimed it." That was a great shot. He's like, "Oh," so that consistency of process there is huge for overall consistency on the course. And then, the other part is, the sequence of events is to get the club pointed in the right direction. You want the club face to be pointing where you want the ball to start, with the club shaft in the right orientation. So once the club is set up properly, now it's your job to set up and get comfortable to the club. So in other words, we don't want to adjust ourselves to see comfort visually to the target, because then I can aim any old place. Once I set the club up and get it pointed properly at the target, now the club's in a certain spot and it's my job to set up to the club. Now I can set up consistently and feel comfortable. So that's the other part, is to feel completely comfortable to that club once you've got it set up properly. So that can help a lot in terms of at least feeling like you're ready to do something good.
So when they're saying consistency, it's not about, I want to shoot 83 every time.
No.
And it should never be about that.
No. Yeah. Because, there's so many things that go into a round of golf. I mean, we've all had rounds where, gosh, I hit the ball pretty well today and I got nothing to show for it. You have a bad score, and vice versa, where you go out and just say, I was worthless today and I shot a great score. But, and as a side note, by the way, that's the best way to learn how to play, is if you ever hit a shot on the golf course that you would have liked on the range, okay, that was struck well, pretty good shot, and it ends up in a bad spot on the course, you just made a management error. So figure it out. What did you miss? What factor did you get wrong that put you plugged in the lip of that bunker when you just pured it? So that's how you learn. So I've played golf for, I guess, 56 years now, and I've always said that in that I've put in 56 lifetimes worth, but I still learn every time I play. Every time I go out, I learn something else about either my process or reading the conditions, or it might be about a certain hole, but constantly learning. And so that's how you get better.
Oh, interesting. Well, when you said you made a management error, because you had a good shot, but it went into the result was not what you had planned for, hoped for. But a minute ago, you said you point the club face where you want the ball to start. Yes, I thought that was interesting.
Nice. Only a golf expert such as yourself would have picked up on that. So
No. Only someone taking notes. I'm not an expert. That's why I need guys like you. I'm far from being the expert.
Okay, so for a very good player, they might not be trying to hit it straight at the target. They might be trying to draw it or fade it. And so in those circumstances, you don't want the ball to start at your target. You want it to start somewhere else and head toward the target. So for a draw, that means it has to start to the right. For a fade, it has to start to the left. We don't want our fade to start at the target, because now it's going to go away from the target.
Right.
So then theoretically, I need to aim the club face to the left when I'm fixing to hit a fade, because I need it to start left. Now, the question would be, wait a minute. Do I just turn the face in? Because now I'm going to hook it. No, you set the club face to the left, and then you set your body more left than the club face. So your swing is going left of where the face is looking. Now the ball's going to cut.
Okay.
So because the face and the path have to be different from one another to curve the ball.
Oh.
So if I want it to curve to the right, I need to swing to the left of where the face is looking. That cuts across it and puts a fade on it. So the aiming the club face to the left of the target ensures that the ball is going to start to the left.
But there's a lot of there's a lot of things going on from takeaway to contact that will influence the ball in a sense that a lot of people probably don't even know which way it's going to go. I feel like I'm in that category a lot. It's like,
no question.
I'm going to aim there and I'm hoping that's where it goes.
Yeah. Well, no question about that. We're talking a little bit more about the higher levels of the game, that's what they're doing. So if you say, if I were to make the comment that you have to make sure your club face is pointing at your target, it's like, not really, depending on what kind of shot shape you're playing. So someone like Tom Lehman, who plays a draw, will have a club face that returns 2 or 3 degrees right of target with a swing path that is 4 degrees right of target. So now it starts to the right and comes on in to the left because the path is more to the right than the face.
I have so many more questions about that, and we'll get to them after this. Roger, I think there's a myth about this wanting more distance thing. I think that it's not always beneficial. I'd much rather hit the ball straight than far. I have 14 clubs in my bag to help me determine how far I'm going to go. If I can be consistent with those, and then I can get to the point where I can put it where I'm aiming, where my target is. Why would I want to keep changing that? I don't see why I need more distance once I know how far I hit every club.
It would be like you and I having a contest to throw a golf ball to hit a flag on a flag stick. And we're going to see who can throw their golf ball and hit the flag on the flag stick. Only I'm going to do it from 10 feet and you're going to do it from 30 yards. So in its simplest terms, that's why, is that I'm approaching from closer. So in the book, The Search for the Perfect Swing, have you read it? There's a 1957 book, The Search for the Perfect Swing, which was so far ahead of its time. It's frightening. So, and they talked about that. They did an analysis of what would happen if you were to hit it 20 yards farther without any loss in accuracy. Now, of course, that's a giant caveat there, but because you're approaching from closer, you're going to end up closer to the hole, which brings you into the next closest putting statistic. So you're going to end up making more putts. So you end up shooting lower if you can hit it farther without any loss in accuracy. So what I would say is I don't want to see any power leaks where someone is swinging gratuitously wrong and costing themselves a lot of power. So so I want them to put the club on the ball to get out of it the power that they're looking for. Now, someone like Bryson DeChambeau puts the club on the ball every time, so he's hitting it solid. He needs to increase his speed to get more power, which is what he's embarked upon. So that's a little different story about someone who hits it solid every time. But if you can hit it farther without losing a lot of accuracy, that's the thought process behind it, is you're just approaching from closer to the green. So you're going to be able to hit higher shots with more backspin because you're using a more lofted club. So it's going to stop with more accuracy. So that's the reason.
Okay. I've been debunked. Okay. I stand corrected. I'm sorry.
Well, so, but there's a thing, where, if you're losing a lot of accuracy, that's a bigger problem. So, you're right in that regard where it's like hitting it 20 yards farther, but hitting it more crooked, that's going to cost you strokes. That will not help you. That will not help you lower.
20 yards farther, 40 yards off to the side.
That's not going to help.
No.
So, it's something you have to keep a pulse on as you're.
It's a controlled increase in distance.
Yeah, I guess so. There doesn't look like a lot is controlled with Bryson's swing, where he's just mashing it. So.
Yeah, interesting. You bring up Bryson. He's always a great topic of conversation. And hopefully he will be for a long time, or he could just be like we're watching a meteor fly through the sky and poof, it's gone. Mm-hmm. Because what he's doing to his body, can he sustain that into his 30s?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I don't know if there's any way to know. He's doing everything he possibly can to understand the way muscles work and the dynamic loading and unloading of a muscle and why people get hurt when they try to swing harder, and he's trying to swing harder, more efficiently, all that stuff. But I mean, that said, these muscles and ligaments and whatnot, they're attached to stuff. And, sometimes
inside of you,
they become unattached.
Yeah.
And it can happen on a sunny day when it's 80 degrees and you're all warmed up on the 15th hole, or it could happen on a hey, let me try one of those, and you make a swing, whatever. So who knows? I mean, I certainly don't hope that for him, but
you think, wait a minute, do you think that we're going to be watching Bryson tee off one day and he's just going to scream in pain after his swing and never be able to get up?
No, it wouldn't happen that way. The way it would happen is he would spontaneously combust and he would not be there anymore at all.
No.
Just be a tee with some smoke coming off of it and what's left of the driver and maybe his hat. It could certainly happen. One of Kobe's major injuries happened when it didn't look like he was doing much. Look at Bo Jackson's career-ending injury. There's 100 hits a game that look worse than that one did.
Yeah, that's true.
So you just never know. I mean, now the other thing that's going to be interesting is how many great players embark on the same thing and they are actually never heard from again. Is it going to help Justin Rose to try to do that? Or, you name the great player. I don't know. So
he's got youth on his side as well.
Yes.
I mean, this is not something at my age, being a boomer who's looking to increase distance just doesn't make sense at this age.
Well, and again, it's back to my original statement about, are you doing everything that you can do to maintain your speed, increase it if you can? From what I've seen, the magic number is about 60. So at age 60, we tend to lose about 1 mile per hour per year with your driver. So that's about 3 yards per year. And, so you're going to hit it 30 yards shorter when you're 70 than you did when you're 60, theoretically. So
are we talking driver or all clubs?
Well, proportionally all clubs, but I'm going off the 1 mile per hour per year with your driver. Okay. And, so it's really incumbent on us to try to do everything we can to sort of hold that off. So, it's like, what do you think is a good idea? Should I maybe go to the gym? Yoga is great, that kind of thing. So it's going to happen to all of us. We know it, but you can make, 65 look like 60 if you put the time and effort into it.
Let's find out what's happening on Golf Smarter Mulligans coming up this week right here, and then we'll talk more with Roger Gunn after this. This week on Golf Smarter Mulligans, we dip back into a members-only episode that has never been heard publicly before. Our guest is Katherine Roberts of Yoga for Golfers, talking about her book that she co-wrote with Hank Haney called Swing Flaws and Fitness Fixes. Funny story. Katherine did a couple TV episodes for the Golf Channel called Swing Flaws and Fitness Fixes with Arnold Palmer's friend and fitness guru Roger Fredericks. On one of those episodes, I was the guinea pig. Yeah, I thought I was pretty limber until I was exposed as not so much on my only appearance on the Golf Channel. But here's a little tease of what we talked about on the podcast.
I stand over my shot. I'm in my address position. I take a nice long deep breath through my nose. I exhale through my nose. I visualize tension leaving my body. And then as I begin my inhale is when I begin my takeaway. Now, for me, naturally, because I've been doing this for so many years, at the top of my backswing, before I begin my downswing, I start my exhalation. So I have a full exhalation at the point of impact.
In addition to the power of breathing and breath control, she shares a stretching exercise to use in your round that removes tension and keeps you loose. Really important. That's episode 95 of Golf Smarter Mulligans featuring Katherine Roberts, author of Swing Flaws and Fitness Fixes, being released this Friday. Both Golf Smarter and Golf Smarter Mulligans are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Please subscribe to both, and when you do, you'll be notified immediately when a brand new episode of either has downloaded to your favorite podcast app. Is Bryson DeChambeau the golf's mad scientist heir apparent from Homer Kelly?
I don't think there's any disputing that. You know, I mean, he is thinking his
Give a little background on Homer Kelly, because you got it immediately, but most people probably don't.
Yes. Homer Kelly wrote. Well, it was a fabulous piece of work in The Golf Machine, writing the book. It's
the Golfing Machine, I think.
Yeah, The Golf Machine is the book, and you know, it's a filled with physics and talking about different ways to load and unload energy in the swing, and it's just this side of unreadable in terms of its formatting and, you know, some of the concepts. I mean, you have to really be a golf nerd to do that. But, you know, Mac O'Grady was well studied in The Golf Machine, and he was, you know, arguably one of the best teachers in the game for a long time, might still be if he's still teaching. And Bryson bases a lot of his stuff on the findings in that book. So I suppose it wouldn't be the world's worst thing to have a rewrite on that book to make it, you know, more user friendly. But he's not only doing it on that, he's doing it on, you know, the impacts of all clubs, and including his putter and the way he strokes it and the way he reads his putt. I mean, I think last year I read that his percentage inside of 10 feet for last season was right about 91%, give or take. So of all putts inside of 10 feet for the year. So
that's remarkable, right?
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. So now there might be some mitigating factors like, okay, he's hitting it so long and straight that he's has a lot of 15-foot putts or 12-foot putts. So he's just outside of the 10-foot, which means, you know, he's putting it up to a foot most of the time, you know, and I mean, that's a gross generalization, but there's sometimes things like that lurk in a stat. So it's not like he's putting from 8 feet all the time and makes it 91% of the time. I mean, that's not really what's happening.
Yeah. So I mentioned before that Bryson is a hot topic of conversation. He's incredibly controversial in so many ways as well, from the bulking up just to add distance by adding power. But the other thing that seems to be a conversation that I'm seeing a lot these days is his arm position at setup. Because so many teachers will tell you, you know, to get in your athletic stance, drop your arms straight down. So they're just hanging there. Mm-hmm. Right. But you know, to start your swing, but when you're making contact, your arms aren't there.
Right. And that's something I actually use in teaching. So when you bring your body to the extent of its range of motion in one direction or another. It really can't go any farther. So that helps you to kind of lock in a position. So when you have your arms up like he does with a lot of ulnar deviations, if you hold a club and you hinge the club toward your nose, that would be radial deviation with your wrists. If you were to hold the club out and then send it down, towards your toes, that's ulnar deviation. So he sets up with his arms up and quite a bit of ulnar deviation. So it helps to return the circle to the same place every time. Now, is that what golfers are going to look like, 30, 40 years from now? I don't know. It's not without merit. That's for darn sure.
Well, is this the one plane versus two plane? Is that what that is? Is that?
Yeah, that's a little bit different thing. That's the work of Jim Hardy, who's been my coach for forever, who's done incredible work there. He talks a lot about different releases of the club and whatnot. But the other thing is the single length shafts that Bryson uses in his irons, which I've seen that come and go a few times. It comes and goes about every decade because it sounds so darn logical. But see, the different lofts of the clubs enjoy different strike angles for success. So a sand wedge loves a descending blow to help you compress the ball and hit it with a nice amount of forward shaft lean and whatnot. So you might have a strike angle with a wedge that's, 10 degrees down or more and hit beautiful trapped wedge shots. If you try that with a 4-iron, you're going to absolutely struggle mightily because a 4-iron wants an angle of approach that's more like 2 or 3 degrees down. So when you have a longer shaft, the ball is farther from you, and the shape of the swing circle would be flatter in orientation. So it comes to the ball without descending so much. So if you're going to use the same length shaft clubs, you're going to have to get those angles in there somehow to produce the right strike for the club that you're trying to hit.
Have you ever recommended someone to get single length shafts?
No, for the reason I just named, is you're making it a little bit harder on yourself by doing that. So you have to alter your swing a little bit more. So our swing gets altered for us with different length clubs just by the length itself. So, and again, I could take either side of that argument and argue it pretty well. So, I mean, when it really gets down to it, all of this stuff, everything we've talked about today, it's about standing there and going, I got this. That's what it's about. And sometimes you're standing there and saying, I don't got this. So then you better do something about it. So, I mean, that's really what it's about.
Oh, I've been to the spots where not only will I say, and recently, unfortunately, but it's like, not only will it's like, I don't got this. It's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm staring at the ball. I got a club in my hands and I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with this.
Yes. Well, I can understand that and appreciate that. I think one of the funniest story was a friend of mine who, when they had the tour school at the TPC Sawgrass, and he's on the 107th hole, which is the Island Green 17 at Sawgrass, and he's on the bubble to get his PGA Tour card. So, he said, you can only imagine how amped up I was playing this hole. And he's standing over the ball and he gets ready to pull the trigger and he backs off saying to himself, nope, that's in the water for sure. So he backs off, tees the thing like 3/4 of an inch high up in the air with a 9-iron or whatever he's hitting, just so he won't hit it fat. And he did green it, and he did get his tour card. So,
oh wow,
a funny story, funny case of a guy going, no, this is not happening.
Yeah, well, that was just for that one swing. No, I'm talking about, like, I stood there going, not just this club, the game itself. I'm completely baffled. What am I doing here?
Well, the ball is telling you what's happening. So with your swing, so that can help you a lot in terms of what door are you going to knock on to help you feel like you know what you're doing. So,
well, actually, when I looked down at the ball, it looked back and said, "It's time to go home, Fred. You don't want to hit me. I'm going to call protective services if you do.
Tell it forcefully. I'm not listening to you.
I've tried that with my kids. That doesn't work there either.
Yes.
So, we had folks on from One Iron Golf a couple episodes ago, and they make single, like they don't make the ones that Bryson uses, but they're, a small independent company that customizes their set of single length irons for every person that tries to do it. And they understand that they can't be scalable on that. And they don't want to come out with new clubs every year. So it's like, they want to do this. Mm-hmm. And you're right. When they explain it, it makes a tremendous amount of sense. It's like, oh, okay. You're each club is a different length. So you have to have a different swing. And that's what makes it so complicated. So why not have one length and just change the angle, the lie angle on the face, and it's going to take care of that for you. You're saying,
that's not quite, from a physics standpoint, like I say, the driver is going to love a very level strike angle. But if you try to do that with a sand wedge, you're going to have a terrible time. So anyways, that's what it's about. And again, believe me, I mean, Bryson DeChambeau can give me 4 aside easy, unless we're playing on a U.S. Open, he can give me 6. So it's not. So it's not. It's one of those things where I would not argue with his success. And again, if it works for a person to do that, I'm all in. That's great. Right. But there are going to be some clubs, if you literally didn't change anything. It all depends on what shaft you set up for the standard length. So I could have a shorter length and I would do better with my short irons and struggle more with my long irons. Or I could make them longer and struggle a little bit more with my short irons. So you're going to have some clubs that theoretically, if you didn't change anything at all, that you would theoretically struggle a little bit with. That's all. And not to mention the longer irons they need more speed too to be successful. So,
club head speed.
Yeah. So the longer shaft also helps with the speed of the longer club to help you get it more airborne.
So if you're going from a regular set of clubs to single length, what can you expect the difference in your 6-iron? Is it going to be not as long, not as straight, or straighter? I mean, what do you think?
They base it round about a 7-iron, I think. So you're talking a very small amount of length on the club, so it probably wouldn't make any difference. You might see a 4-iron that's not quite getting up in the air like you're used to seeing it do. Again, and this is based on the idea that we're not changing anything. We're not changing stance width. We're not changing not a single thing about the swing. So I think that just the knowledge that it's like, okay, Mr. Single Length person, just recognize that your wedge, it really likes to be hit a little bit more down on it. So let's bump this ball a little more back in your stance here. Okay, just a sprinkle. Hardly, your friends can hardly see that you're doing it, but just a little bit. With a long iron, we're going to do the opposite. So not a big change, but let's get that ball lifted a little bit more forward in your stance and help to hit it with a little more of a level strike.
So do you advocate having you wanted the ball when you set up in the middle of your stance all the time, but you like getting back behind the ball or forward on the ball?
Yeah, no, I'll move the ball position. And again, you could just set me on either side of that argument, and I could make a very compelling argument of why you want to keep it exactly where it is.
See, because you're the expert.
Well, relative to the logo on your shirt is really, has a big effect. It's, the bottom of the swing is roundabout there. So, yeah. And so, but no, I will put the ball forward in the stance as the club gets longer to, again, create a more of a dynamic loft and a more level strike. I'll put the ball back in the stance to trap my short irons in there lower to create a low draw situation. So for me personally, I'll stand wider with the ball more forward with the longer clubs and narrower with the ball more back with the shorter clubs.
Fascinating. One of the things that I love to have you on the show, to talk to you, is because we don't know where it's going to go, and it just keeps going. We didn't prepare anything.
No,
We're
not
just
at all.
like, let's just talk. Let's see what happens. And the amount of nuggets, the amount of phenomenal information that I get from you every single time just blows me away. That's why I love to talk to you and have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, you might have guessed that I really do enjoy, the game and its nuances, and not only for helping me in my own golf, but helping my students. So it's a lot of fun to be able to create a better ball flight just by the knowledge that you have. So that's why, I still try to learn, and I'm sure I'll do so for the next however long, I get to play.
Well, we're all blessed to have teachers like you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fred.
So if you've been listening regularly through the winter, you'll remember back in December on episode 769, I spoke to Matt Lake of oneiron.golf.com about single-length irons and how they can help you eliminate having to adjust your stance and posture with every individual iron, and hopefully provide you with greater consistency with each shot. Well, Matt was eager for me to try them out and sent me their Blackstone set with 8 clubs ranging from 23 degree to 51 degree, and that's how they're labeled on the clubs by degrees, in 4-degree increments. Now, per the website, the clubs were fitted based on a wrist-to-floor measurement, and even though they arrived just, they got here a couple weeks ago, but I was a little nervous about using them in play before testing them out on the range. Luckily, my closest driving range has the top tracer technology, which I absolutely love, and that allowed me to track not only the distance, but the dispersion on 5 good swings that I had with each club. For the last few years, I've been playing the Ping G yellow dot irons after custom fitting, and have been very, very pleased with them. No reason to get rid of them, except for curiosity. But ever since I spoke to Matt's dad, David, early in 2009, I've been fascinated by this technology. To me, it makes a lot of sense, but to me, maybe not to you, but to me, it makes a lot of sense. And when I talk to teachers about it, they're like, but we like things that are different. We try things new all the time. And by the way, the episode with David Lake has been brought back as a Golf Smarter Mulligans number 76. So if you want to get the full picture of One Iron Golf, check out both Golf Smarter Mulligans 76 and Golf Smarter number 769. So anyway, my time on the range was enlightening, to say the least. First of all, I seem to hit ball off the mats at this range 10 yards farther than I do when I'm playing around. At least that's what it feels like when I'm measuring out my shots. And so far, that part is fairly consistent with my pings with these Blackstones. But the dispersion is what really impressed me. It was much smaller than I'm accustomed to, with my fade being just a little tighter and definitely having fewer mishits. So, all that is to say that tomorrow I'll be taking the clubs out for my first run at 18 holes, and I'll bring along my camera so that I can share the results with you on an upcoming video for our Golf Smarter TV channel at YouTube. So please make sure you subscribe and select the notification button at youtube.com/golfsmartertv so that you'll get the update as soon as it's published. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions about topics or products that you've seen and want to hear more about, I'd love to hear from you, and we can talk about it on an upcoming interview. Please use @GolfSmarter on social media, subscribe to Golf Smarter TV on YouTube, or just click on the Hey Fred button at golfsmarter.com.